bowling time, bowling's biggest show. Introducing the National League of Bowling, and featuring a match between Joe Brown and Carmen Salvino. Our guest today is Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Hi there, I'm Bud Hummer. In addition to our special guest, that well-known boxing authority, Dr. Joyce Brothers, and our two champion bowlers, you'll see a mystery number contest, and also each of our four contestants picked from our large audience here have a chance of winning $1,500 on our big jackpot. And now to introduce our champion bowlers, here's that well-known bowling expert and top bowling announcer, Sammy Levine.
Thank you, Bud Palmer. Now it's time once again to meet our star pentopplers, who are members of the National League of Bowling. Like the American League, which we formed on our first Bowling Time series, the National Circuit is composed of 8 men who represent 8 different cities. The league operates on a round-robin basis, and each man faces all his opponents the same number of times. The stars bowl 2 games on our show each week. Now, once again, let's welcome back from New York, Joe Brown. Joe, we're certainly happy to see you again.
Nice to be here again.
Joe, we've been watching you bowl, we've been describing your actions, and we noticed that every time you stand on the approach, when you're ready to deliver, you do a little dance or a little jig or a little shuffle. What are you trying to do?
Well, Sam, what I actually do is this. When I get up on the approach and visualize my angle out there, at times I may think I'm a little bit too much to the right. So what I do is I just move a little bit to the left, set myself properly, and then off I go.
Oh, it's a very entertaining dance, and I'll ask for the next one with you. Let's meet your opponent, and he's been here before, from Chicago, Carmen Salvino. Carmen, will you come in, please? Glad to see you again. Mm-hmm. Carmen, you've won many titles and many tournaments. What would you say is your biggest bowling thrill?
Well, I think when I was 19 years old, I had one of my biggest thrills of my life. I won the national doubles title with Joe Wilm.
That's the tournament sponsored by the Bowling Proprietors Association of America.
That's right, John.
And where was that?
In St. Paul.
Well, it's a wonderful tournament to win, and we very belatedly want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Now for the prize list. Gentlemen, you know you bowl for a total of $17,750 to be divided 8 ways among the 8 bowlers. First prize, $5,000. Second, $3,500. And third, $2,500. You see the other prizes on the board. For a 300-game bowl in the National League of Bowling, Joe and Carmen, $3,000.
Go for that.
Good. And good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Now, while Sammy climbs into his soundproof booth so he won't disturb the bowlers, let's take a look at the league standings.
As we go into our match now, Johnny King of Cleveland is in first place with 96 points and 37 pins. Tony Lindemann of Detroit is second with 95 points and 11 pins. Jack Adelot of Minneapolis is third with 91 points and 6 pins. Now, as you can see, 6 of the bowlers in the circuit have already bowled 20 games. Salvino and Brown have rolled only 18 games, but will catch up with the rest of the league by bowling 2 games on the show right now.
We'll start our first game in just a moment.
We go now with the first game of this 2-game match between Joe Brown of New York and Carmen Salvino of Chicago in the National League of Bowling. The National League operates under rules and regulations of the American Bowling Congress and is conducted under the Peterson point system of scoring. That's the method used by the Bowling Proprietors Association of America in its annual All-Star Tournament. Under the Peterson system, a bowler receives 1 point for every 50 pins he spills and 1 point for every game he wins. And the man who tabulates the Peterson points for us is the Secretary of the National League of Bowling, Mickey Moore, who's sitting in the booth with us now. Now, coming up to start this game on lane number 3 is Joe Brown of New York. And a beauty right in the pocket for a strike. Carmen Salvino of Chicago. Takes a short step, 4 long ones, whips the ball down the lane, and never a doubt, right in the pocket for a strike. Salvino on 3, has a strike in the first, studies his spot on the lane about 15 feet from the foul line. There it goes, thin, and look at the pins fall, but the 2 and 7 remain standing. The 2-7 baby split on the left. Pins are replaced by the automatic pin spotter. Salvino will attempt to roll the ball between the 2 pins, the 2 and 7. And yay, he made it. It looked a little full, but he brought them both in for a spare, a beautiful shot. And he has 20 in the first. Joe Brown takes 5 steps, does a little dance on the approach. There he goes. He's in light, but he carries him a thin hit for a double for Joe Brown. Joe Brown, representing New York in the National League of Bowling, as a double. He also is a spot bowler. High backswing. He's in thin, but he carries him for a turkey. Carmen Salvino, 23 years old. On 4. That high follow through. He's coming in thin. Look at the pin scatter, but the 5-pin remains standing. You see it on the pindicator, the magic triangle, the 5-pin replaced on the lane by the automatic pin spotter. Salvino will shoot this from his strike position. It's the 5-pin in the center of the lane. And he spills it for a spare in the 3rd frame. Carmen, one of the leading pin topplers in the Midwest. Watch him on 3. Studies his spot. He's in a little light, but he chops him up for a strike in the 4th frame. Joe Brown, 39 years old. Joe's been bowling for 20 years as a turkey. How is it? A little thin, the mixer ball, but the 7-pin will not fall on a thin hit. Brown has 59 in the 2nd, a strike in the 3rd, shooting for the 7-pin. And he brings it in for a spare and leads by 20 pins. Brown is 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs 157 pounds. 5 steps. And a beautiful pocket hit for a strike. Here's Salvino with 59 in the 3rd, a strike in the 4th. There it goes. He's in light and leaves the 10-pin on a thin hit. The 10-pin on the right side of the lane. In shooting for this single-pin spare, Salvino will pick a spot about 3 feet in front of the pin and try to roll over the spot, which he does to bring it in for a spare in the 5th frame. There's Carmen on 3, 79 in the 4th, a spare in the 5th. He's on 3, a little thin, but he mixes them all up. Plenty of action on that bowling ball. He has 99 in the 5th, a strike in the 6th. Joe Brown, who won the New Jersey State match game title twice in 1954 and 52. There he is. Oh, a beauty. Never a doubt for a double. Joe Brown carries an average of 221 in Eastern 10-pin circuits. Has a double, trying for 3. There's that little dance on the approach. And a little full and leaves the 3, 6, and 10 pins on a full hit. The 3, 6, 10, you see it on the pindicator, the magic triangle. Joe will move to the left, try to roll the ball between the 3 and 6 pins. And he carried him. He was a little bit afraid of a chop, but he brought him in for a spare. Carmen Salvino on 4. And a little light and leaves the 10 pin on a thin hit. Didn't come up enough. Carmen Salvino, 6 feet 2 inches tall, 200 pounds, bowling against Little Joe Brown, 5 feet 5 inches tall. Both fine bowlers, both stars, which proves that everyone can bowl. Bowling knows no size. There is Carmen, and he went by it into the gutter. Salvino has 127 in the 7th. He won the Chicago Match Game Championship when he was 21 years old. Finished 3rd in the ABC All Events the same year. There he goes on 3. And a full one and leaves the 7 pin. Carmen thought he had it. 7 pin is replaced on the lane. Carmen will move to the right, pick a spot 3 feet in front of the pin, and roll the ball over the spot and at the 7 pin. Just like that for a spare in the 8th frame. Joe Brown, 146 in the 6th, a spare in the 7th. That one is coming in late, but he carries it for a strike. And that ball took a nosedive right into the pocket. Watch him try for a double. Notice how he flips his wrist for the follow-through. He's full, and of all things, the 7-10 split. The wide-open 7-10. This split can be made, but very seldom is, and the star bowlers don't even attempt it. They'll shoot for 1 pin. Every pin counts. Joe shooting for the 7 pin, which he brings in the 9th frame, and he has 194 in the 9th. Here's Salvino in the 9th. Look at that high follow-through. A thin one, a shaker-upper, and they all fell down for a strike in the 9th. Salvino has 147 in the 8th, a strike in the 9th. Now in the 10th frame. And there's a beautiful strike for a double. Strikes in the 9th and 10th. There's Carmen trying for a turkey. Full. And leaves the 6 and 10 pins. Almost a 6-7-10 split. The 7 pin fell. Carmen Salvino has the 6 and 10. Shooting the 6 and 10. And he brings him in to finish with 195. And he cannot win the game. Brown has 194 in the 9th. Needs only 1 pin to tie and 2 to win. And naturally, he'll get more than that. There he goes. A beautiful strike. Brown has 194 in the 9th. A strike in the 10th. Shooting on 4. takes his 5 steps, rolls over a spot, and a beauty in the pocket for a double. And he has a 220 game. If he strikes, it will be 224. Fine shooting by Joe Brown, who represents New York in the National League of Bowling. Brown now, the final ball of this game. And it hooks in full and leaves 2 pins standing. And he finishes with a very fine 222. Bowlers will be back shortly for the second game of this contest. Right now, here's Bud Palmer with our guest celebrity.
Well, thank you very much, Sammy. Our guest on this show is a young lady who had a name for herself on the $64,000 question that amazed everybody that such an attractive young lady would know so much about boxing. It's Dr. Joyce Brothers. Hi, how are you? How would I call you, Dr. Brothers, Doctor, or Joyce?
Joyce, please.
Joyce, that's what I think is much better, too. Joyce, do you bowl at all?
Yes, I do. Gus Lesnovich taught me to bowl.
Oh, Gus taught you? Well, we know Gus. He bowls here quite a bit. Well, here's another gentleman who can show you a lot about bowling. He's our bowling instructor, Lee Juglard, who gives some very excellent lessons. I learn all the time, so why don't you, too?
I'd like to watch.
Okay, Lee, go ahead.
Thanks, Bud. Florence, who do we have with us today?
Lee, this gentleman is Hugo Polsey, and Hugo's from the Bronx, New York, and his problem is dropping the right shoulder.
Thank you very much, Florence.
How you doing, Lee?
How are you, Hugo?
Fine.
You're not an officer, are you?
No, sir.
Fine. Then you're my buddy.
Okay.
Now, I understand that your trouble is dropping your right shoulder. Is that right?
That's right, Lee. I have a habit of, as I approach the foul line, of dropping my shoulder and therefore dropping the ball right by the foul line, which causes the ball naturally to swing on the right.
Your accuracy is not good. Is that right?
That's right.
And that's a very, very common fault. In fact, you've seen a good many better bowlers set the ball right on the foul line as they're releasing it. And it's very smooth, and it sounds very good, and it looks very good. But still, it's not. Because in order to maintain your accuracy, that ball has to be over the foul line. You lift it over the foul line, the ball slides a bit before it gets momentum. Then by the time it hits the pins, it's got its full roll, the right accuracy, and it just makes those pins jump around a little bit. But let me watch you. You take your own ball and throw one, and I'll watch you, and we'll work from there. I'd appreciate it if you do it just a little bit slower.
All right.
Because I want to watch you real closely, but I still want you to bowl just like you would in an ordinary league or anything else, all right? You're trying to be a little too careful, aren't you? Well, I don't want you to do that. I want you to be real careful. I want you to feel relaxed and loose, bowl just like you do all the time. Just let that ball go. But I want to watch your shoulder once more. I'll stand over on this side this time. Try it once more, will you?
Okay.
All right, now, take a lot of time, Hugo. Set yourself. Be relaxed. Right up in here, that's where you got to start. Keep everything loose. All right, I think that I can help you, Hugo. Let's come back here. I want you to stand right here again, where you usually stand.
Oh, up here.
Right about there. All right, now this time, I want you to move up just a little bit closer. Just a little bit. That's it, that'll do it. Now you're going to start right from here. Keep this in mind. You're starting at the 12-foot line. I'm going to sit up out here on the foul line. I'm going to set a towel out there. Now, I want you to watch that. I want you to lift that ball out over the towel. I want you to hit it. Every time you hit it, I'll deduct 10 pins from your score, all right?
Okay.
All right, now, before you go, Hugo, there's just a couple other things that I'd like to tell you. With the shoulders, keep them level, just like this, as if you were going to throw 2 balls. Level all the way. Don't be too careful. Just a little slower, but not too careful. And lift right out there with it. Keep this shoulder up, stand just a little more erect. Take a lot of time.
much better. You're starting to look like a professional. You probably bowl like one before too long. Now, after you've got to a point where you can get that over the towel each time without thinking about it, then it's become a habit with you. You don't have to worry about that anymore. All you have to concentrate on is whatever is out there. If you're a spot bowler, you concentrate on your spot. If you're a pin bowler, you concentrate on your pins. Tell me, what's the toughest for you to do out there? What spare or what pins?
Well, my toughest is 6 and 10.
The 6 and 10. That's on the right-hand side of the lanes. That's the 2 corner pins. Let's take a look at them over here. Now, this is our special instruction panel. Now, you've probably seen the pindicator on the automatic pin spotters. Now, if we can have the 610, here we are over here. Now, incidentally, this is a tough spare for almost anyone because there's 2 ways of missing that, and there's also 2 ways of making it. Now, if you were to hit that 6 pin full on the left-hand side, which is the most preferred method, full on the left-hand side, you'd send that 6 into the 10, thereby making the spare. Now, you can have that once more. There are many bowlers that shoot between the 6 and 10, so that their ball carries the 6 on the right-hand side, and it also carries the 10 pin, thereby making the spare. Now, once more, the most common thing that happens when you shoot at this, you try to cover both pins with the ball, but you can never be that accurate. Once in a great while, you'll find your ball comes down there and hits that 6 pretty full, carries right through, makes a 6, and it leaves the 10 pin standing. Now, that's what's commonly called a cherry or a chop, and that happens very often. Also, if you'd have it once more, I'll show you something else. Sometimes, if you were to hit that 6 lightly on the left-hand side, you'll slide that 6 right over to the right and leave your 10 pin standing. So, always on the 610, you've got to stand on the left-hand side and angle your ball over to the right so that your ball doesn't have a tendency to hook too much and not cherry or chop the 6 from the 10. Now, I'll try that once for you. Now, you notice I'm clear over here on the left side. And I'm going to reach out there. I'm going to get the ball well out over the foul line so that the ball slides before it starts to turn, and I can be much more accurate, or I can throw straighter at those pins than I could ordinarily. That's one of the things that you have to watch. All good bowlers, regardless of where you see them, they're going to reach out over that towel with a full follow-through. Now, how do you think that things have gone along? You think I've helped you a little bit?
Oh, quite a bit.
Well, Hugo, there's nothing that's as good as practice. If you come out here, I don't know how often you work. I mean, if you work 6 or 7 days a week?
5.
5, that's good. That's what I want to hear you say. Now, on Saturdays and Sundays, come out here, practice. Get that ball out over the foul line. And if you don't raise your average 15 or 20 pins, then you come back and see me and we'll try it again. Okay?
I will, Lee. And thanks for everything.
Hugo, it's been real nice having you. Thanks for coming in.
And Joyce, how'd you like that lesson?
I learned a great deal, even more than Gus.
Even more than Gus taught you? Let's get back to your sport of boxing. Now, I'm sure people have asked you this before, but how did an attractive girl like you ever get on the $64,000 question, and the topic being boxing?
Well, I got on the question by writing to them, but the topic was because of my husband. My husband's a physician. He's in training now. He's a resident.
Mm-hmm.
And we have very little time to spend together. During his internship, for example, he was on duty 36 hours and off 12, and that 12
It's a
at
tough
night.
life.
So whatever time we had together, we decided we were going to spend together. And he took up golf to please me, and I took up watching fights to please him. And we'd watch and have a friendly argument about one of the fighters, and we'd look him up in the record book. And little by little, I began to know more about boxing, and I found the more I knew, the more I enjoyed it. And there I was, a fan, finally.
What are your plans from here on in now, besides making appearances all over and winning more money on the challenge and everything else?
Well, I'm writing a book, which is being published on...
How to box?
No, how to improve your memory.
How to
it's
improve
a
your...
psychological book.
I can see why you'd write that. How did you study up for all this? Did you just open up, was it Nat Fletcher's History of the Ring or Encyclopedia on Boxing, just go through it?
Well, I knew a great deal, of course, before I got on the program. You can't get on the program without being able to answer questions in interviews beforehand. But once I got on the program, I had all of the past Ring magazines, of course, which I had saved, and Nat Fleisch's encyclopedia, and just an entire library of boxing. I think I have practically every book that's ever been written on boxing, and I just sat down and worked at it.
Do you have any people quiz you on certain questions? Your friends come up and ask you this or that, or look up the ring book? How do you prepare yourself? Does your husband ask you questions?
Yes, I try and get everybody in the family to take turns, and I give them the book, and they just ask questions from here and there and throw them at me in a big hurry so that I can answer, I hope, as rapidly as possible, because it's impossible to think under those conditions on the stage. The pressure in the booth is so bad that I can't begin to describe it, so that you either know the answer or you don't know it. You can't think under those conditions.
In other words, it has to come to you like that or you're through? Mm-hmm. Does your psychology training help you at all, do you think, in the booth?
I don't think so. I don't know. The concentration on the question is so great that you completely forget everything else. You forget yourself and your training, and nothing exists in the world except you and the MC, so that I can't begin to tell whether it helps me in any way.
I think the power of concentration you'd have to have would help you a great deal.
Well, I hope so.
How long do they give you in the isolation booth? Is it, what?
15 seconds.
In other words, that doesn't really do you much good.
No.
You either know it right off the bat or you're stuck?
I think so. I don't know. I haven't had to think under those circumstances. Fortunately, I've been able to answer as I go along. But I don't know whether I'd be able to, under pressure, to think back or to go back over a list or to recapture a date that I didn't know right offhand.
What was the toughest question you had? Any one that sticks out in your mind that you almost missed?
At the $8,000 level, surprisingly
The $8,000 level?
On the original question.
Yeah,
yes.
the $64,000 question.
They asked the ring names. They gave the real names of several fighters and asked the ring names. And Noah Brousseau was very difficult for me. That was the
you
real.
You tell me, I have no
me.
idea.
With Tommy Burns.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a squeaker for me.
Well, so many of them change their names all the time.
Yeah.
Well, thanks an awful lot for being with us. It really is great talking to you. I hope you're on the
enjoyed talking to you, Bud.
$64,000 challenge many times, and I hope I see you around all over the country. I'm sure you will. Let me say one thing. I think that you're much more attractive in person than you are in the $64,000 question challenge.
Well, thank you very much. I must look like the beast from 20,000.
No, you're attractive on that, but much more attractive now. You really are.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
It's not being nice at all. That's a statement of fact, and thanks very much for being with us again. The second game of our match will get underway in just a moment.
Carmen Salvino coming up to start the second game of this match between Carmen Salvino of Chicago and Joe Brown of New York. Here is Carmen on 3. And he's in a little full, but he carries him for a strike in the first frame. Now Joe Brown, who won the first game 222 to 195. Here is Joe on 4. And he's going to be light and leaves the bucket or the cluster. The 2, 4, 5, and 8 pins on a thin hit. This can be a difficult spare to convert. The pin to watch here is the 8 pin, the pin in the back, the sleeper. It's a sleeper because sometimes you can't see it. Moves to the left. There he goes. And he got the sleeper, but he left 2 other ones standing, and he has 8 in the first frame. Joe Brown has bowled 2 sanctioned 300 games and 7 in open play. He has 4 sanctioned 299 games. Watch him on 3. There's that little dance on the approach. The high backswing. Way light, and leaves the 2, 4, and 5 pins on a thin hit. 2, 4, 5. Here's Joe. Uses the spot in shooting for spares. And he chopped it and left the 5 pin in the center of the lane. Brown has 17 in the second. Here is Salvino with a strike in the first frame. Short step, 4 long ones. And he is in thin, but he spills them all but the 2-pin on a very thin hit. Carmen Salvino, at the age of 19, he won the BPAA National Doubles with Joe Willman. And he brings it in for a spare. He has 20 in the first, a spare in the second. Carmen Salvino on 3. There's that fine follow through, and he knew he had that one for a strike. He had 40 in the second, a strike in the third. Joe Brown, he's a sales representative for a bowling equipment manufacturer. On 4, coming in thin, and mixes them all up, and they all fell for a strike. Joe Brown on 3. He finished third in the ABC doubles one year with Gras Castellano. There he goes, and there is a beauty for a strike and a double. Carmen Salvino, watch his fine bowling form. And he's in for a beautiful pocket hit, a strike and a double. In 1954, he won the Illinois State All-Events, and his .208 average was high for Chicago that year. On 3. And he's in for a turkey. 3 in a row. Joe Brown, with strikes in the third and fourth, in the 5th frame on number 4. He's in a little high. Look at the pins fall. But the 6 and 7 remain standing. The 6-7, a wide open split. The automatic pin spotter replaces the pins on the lane. Joe will attempt to convert by hitting the 6th pin on the right side and sliding it over. There he goes, and he made it, a beautiful shot. That's the way to make the 6 and 7. How about that? Joe has a 790 series to his credit in sanctioned competition. Joe Brown just converted the wide open 6-7 split. He's going now on 3. The follow through. He's thin and mixes them all up, but look at the 7-pin wobble. The 7-pin, you see it on the pindicator, the magic triangle. There's the 7-pin. Joe Brown shooting the 7-pin from cross lane. And he brings it in for a spare in the 6th. Carmen Salvino with a turkey. He has 70 in the 3rd. Strikes in the 4th and 5th. And on a thin one, he chops him up and mows him down for a 4-bagger. He has 100 in the 4th. Strikes in the 5th and 6th. Carmen leads by 35 pins. Here he is trying for a 5-bagger. Plenty of action on his bowling ball. And he's in. Solid. A beauty for 5 in a row. There is Brown. And a perfect hit. The 7-pin delayed, but it fell for a strike. Joe Brown, 104 in the 6th, a strike in the 7th. On lane number 3, a thin one, but he carries him for a double. And again, delayed action on the 10 pin, which refused for a second to fall, but finally did. There's Carmen. A thin one. Look at all that mixing action. And he has 6 in a row. What a mixer-upper ball. Carmen Salvino. He's a tall fella, 6'2", and Joe Brown, his opponent, is a little one, 5'5", which proves that size makes no difference in bowling. There is Carmen, a thin hit, and leaves the 2, 4, and 5 pins. 2 fine bowlers, 2 fine gentlemen. Carmen has 187 in the 7th, strike in the 8th, shooting the 2, 4, 5, and he left the 5 pin. One of the pins bounced back up, but missed the 5 pin, which remains standing. And Carmen has 215 in the 9th. Now Joe Brown with a double. Notice that fine bowling form. He's coming in a little light and leaves the 10 pin. 10 pin on a thin hit. Joe Brown, 133 in the 7th, strike in the 8th. Trails by 54 pins. Here he is in the 9th frame. And he brings it in for a spare. Joe Brown, representing New York, on lane number 3 in the 10th frame. And he's on the Brooklyn side and leaves the 5 and 9 pins on a thin Brooklyn hit. The 5-9. Ball crossed over into the Brooklyn pocket, the 1-2 pocket, and left the 5 and 9 pins. Joe Brown. And he's killed him for a spare in the 10th frame. There's Brown shooting the final ball of this game. A strike will give him 191. There he goes. He's coming in light, and he mixes him up. The 2 pins remain standing, the 7 and 8. 2 pins standing, and he winds up with 189. Now Carmen Salvino with 215 in the 9th. There he goes. And he chops him up in a thin hit for a strike in the 10th frame. Carmen Salvino, one of the best pin topplers in the Midwest. Watch him on 4. And he's in for a beautiful pocket hit for a double. And he has a 240 game. Just how much of a 240 depends on this last ball. A strike will give him 245. Carmen Salvino, the final ball of this game. There he goes. And there's a perfect finish for a 245. He wound up with a turkey. Beautiful bowling. The winner of the second game, Carmen Salvino, 245. Joe Brown, 189. Now here's Bud Palmer with the up-to-date standings of the National League of Bowling. Then we'll be back with the exciting jackpot portion of our program.
Here are the up-to-date standings of the National League of Bowling. Johnny King of Cleveland has moved into first place with 96 points and 37 pins. Tony Lindeman of Detroit is second with 95 points and 11 pins. Carmen Salvino of Chicago is third with 94 points and 10 pins. Next in order are Jack Adelett of Minneapolis, Boy Belcher, Los Angeles, Dick Weber, St. Louis, Pete Kreibig of Houston, and Joe Brown of New York.
On to the audience participation part of our show. Now, 4 of our contestants, picked from our large audience here, have a chance to win a lot of money. First, $50 on our mystery number, but more important, $1,500. Each has a chance for $1,500 on our big jackpot. And here we go. All right, Florence, who's our first contestant?
Bud, I'd like you to meet Irene Matzinger, and she is a school teacher and has a bowling average of 115.
Well, very
Irene,
fine. Is it all right to call a school teacher Irene, or should I call you Miss Matzinger?
Well, my friends call me Irene.
All right, fine. I'll consider myself a friend if that's all right. Where do you teach?
I teach in Glen Rock, and I've also taught overseas in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What, with the Army in
Yes,
Germany?
Yes, with the Army dependent schools.
That must have been very interesting, wasn't
It was very interesting.
Where'd you teach in Germany?
I taught in Frankfurt, in Munich, and in Karlsruhe.
Mm-hmm. Now, what grades do you teach here?
I teach 4th.
4th? You don't teach bowling, do you?
No, I don't teach bowling.
Well, tell me, do you think that bowling would be a suitable activity in school?
I think it would be a very fine thing for the boys and girls.
How long have you been bowling, Irene?
I've just been bowling about a year.
Well, you're practically a newcomer. What started you?
Well, I need the relaxation after a hard day at school.
Well, how many nights a week do you bowl?
1 night a week.
Well, can't you pick up a little more? Maybe 2 or 3 nights a week?
I'm afraid they'd have to pick me up after a busy day at school.
Get you in the classroom the next morning? Well, you know how our mystery number works, don't you?
Yes,
You have to
I do.
knock down a certain amount of pins. Florence will show our audience how many, and good luck to you for $50. All right? You just go get your ball now, and we'll be off. Irene, I might say that your number is a high one, and since you're just a beginner, it's between 6 and 8. Irene, I have a question to ask you. Come on over here. How long did you say you have been bowling?
I said 1 year. And that's beginner's luck.
I don't know about that. Did you do the whole thing so casually? It looked like it was going down there all the time that way, does it?
No, I assure you not.
I'm afraid you knocked down too many pins because your number was 7, but that's just a warm-up, as I've said before. So come on over here and meet Sam Levine, Irene, and he'll help you with your number. Which number do you want?
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. Well, you have what we call the rumble seat. Why are you looking like that? What do you think we're going to ask you to do?
Probably hit the one that's in back of the striped one.
You get 100% an A for effort on your report card. The automatic pin spotter will set up the 2 and 8 pins. The 2 and the 8. The 2 pin will be the striped pin. You are to knock down the pin in the back, the one in the rumble seat, and leave the 2 pins standing. And with the type of ball you throw, you can just about do it. Move to the right, aim for the 8 pin, just a little slight hook will do it at the last second. Any questions?
No, no questions.
All right, well, good luck to you. I think you might be able to do it. We hope you can. The automatic pin spotter sets the 2 and 8 pins on the lane, knock down the pin in the back, leave the striped pin, and good luck. And she's off too far to the right. That's too bad.
That's too bad, Irene. As Sam just said, it's a tough shot, I think, for somebody who has a pretty straight ball. But here's your $10 consolation prize, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Out doing some more bowling, perhaps 2 nights a week. I don't know about that. All right, Florence, who's our next contestant?
Bud, this is Henry Munganath, and he's from Tacoma, Washington. And Bud, he bowls about 160.
Very good.
Nice to meet you, Bud.
Henry, how are you?
Pretty good.
I noticed you were bowling a little bit before the show here. You're a southpaw.
That's right.
Do you find that as any detriment to your bowling?
Not offhand, I guess. If they're in the pocket, they'll go down either side.
Okay, boy, go on, get back and get your ball there for $50, and Florence will show our audience at home just what you're shooting for. I'll tell you, Henry, your number is between 1 and 6. You've got sort of a low one. Nope, you knocked down 1 too many. Your number was 5. You knocked down 6. That was close. Now, come on over here with Sam, and we'll talk about the big jackpot shot. He has unusual style there. Do you notice he holds the ball
Yes, I know.
with one hand?
I guess I palmed it a little too much.
You're a palm ball artist. It's quite unusual. I haven't seen anything like that for some
Pretty
time.
hard to control, I guess. I'm having a little trouble with it. Maybe I should change my style, but
Are you comfortable with it?
I feel pretty good in it, yeah.
Don't change your style, huh?
Sam will talk to you about it afterwards if you want to know any more about it. But let's get on to this $1,500 now here. What's your number?
I'll take 10.
All right.
Number 10.
And it is. Get around this way a little more. We can...
Goalpost.
Everybody at home can see it, too.
Automatic pin spotter will set up all 10 pins. All we want you to do is leave the 7-10 split. If you leave it,
Sure.
hit the ball right on the nose, the head pin.
What you have to do, yeah.
Leave the 7-10, we have $1,500 for you.
Good enough.
Good
Any
enough.
questions?
Yeah, that's it.
And the 7 and 10 pins will be striped pins to help you pick them out.
All right.
Right on the nose.
Okay.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Let's go, Henry.
The automatic pin spotter is setting up 10 pins. Leave the 7 and 10 pin, please. There he goes. Yeah, oh, perfect strike.
That was too good a hit. I know, it's just right, but I have a consolation prize for you. I guess you're in that groove, and it's hard to get out of, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
But next time, probably, you'll get that 7-10 split.
Let's see.
Well, good luck to you. Thanks an awful lot. All right, John, who's next?
Bud, this is Blanche Conti, and Blanche is from Houston, Texas, and has a bowling average of about 133.
Hi, Blanche. How are
do you
you?
do?
Glad
Fine,
to see
thank
you.
you.
Now, why did you pick up bowling?
Oh, it was more or less a recreation, and it was helpful to me.
Well, in what way? Just to relax and have
Just
fun?
to relax and have fun, more or less. An evening out.
Well, it is a lot of fun at these beautiful bowling centers I think we have all over the country. Are you married?
Yes, I am.
Anybody else in your family bowl?
My husband bowls, and my stepson bowls.
Do you bowl better than your husband?
No, I don't.
You know, it's funny. We've had a lot of husbands and wives on our show where the wife actually is a better bowler than the husband.
Well, my husband is my teacher.
Oh, well, I see. What does he bowl?
Oh, he has a 169.
Very good. Now, you all set to try for your mystery number?
I am.
Okay, fine. Now, you go back and get your ball now, and Florence will show everybody at home exactly what you have to bowl for your mystery number and your $50. Blanche, the pin spotter is setting them up for you, and your mystery number is a high one. Blanche, it's not that high. I said a high one, not the highest one, but come on over here anyway. Your number was 9. Everybody bowls strikes on this show. It's automatic, I think. Well, now come on over for the big one here. This is for $1,500 on one shot. And what number do you want?
Number 4.
Number 4. Sammy, what's under number 4?
Number 4. This is what we call the baby plus one, and it's honest, it's not really difficult. The automatic pin spotter will set up the 2, 7, 10 split. Only one way to do it, roll the ball between the 2 and 7 pins. You must hit the 2 a little full, so it'll, just as you come by it, slide it over to knock down the 10.
I'm going to try.
Blanche, I bet you've made this before, haven't you?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're going to make it, now's the time to do it. Start out with a $1,500 shot right now.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
The automatic pin spotter places the 2, 7, 10 on the lane, knock them down, and good luck to you. There she goes. Hey! Oh, she hit it too full.
Little
That's
too
bad.
full, Blanche. But I have a consolation prize for you here of $10. That was too bad. It's a good try, though.
Thank you.
Thanks an awful lot. All right, Florence. Who's next?
Here, Bud, is Nick Viola, and he comes from Augusta, Georgia. and Nick bowls about 185.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Bud.
How are
Glad
you?
to meet you.
Glad to meet you. What do you do as a living?
Well, I'm a senior electronic technician.
Senior electronic technician. What does that mean exactly? What do you do?
Well, I
with
work
that?
on electronic devices, automatic electronic devices.
Well, first we have this lucky number coming up.
Uh-huh.
You know how that works? You've seen the contestants ahead
That's
of you.
right, that's
Probably seen the show, too. All right, now you go get your ball there for $50 on a lucky number. Meanwhile, Florence will show everybody at home exactly what it is. Well, Nick, there's that pin spotter for you. Setting them up for you for the mystery number, and you have a high number, boy. That's a little too many. Strike,
Well,
strike, strike. That's all we see are strikes along here. But your number was 8, and you knocked down as you saw them all. But you warmed up now?
Yeah.
Okay. Come on over here, meet Sammy Levine. And what number do you want?
Number 3, please.
Number 3, he said. Well, Nick, we call this the back row. The automatic pin spotter will set up the back row. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Mm-hmm. Nick, all we want you to do is to knock down the back row. And believe me, it is not the most difficult thing in the world. If you hit the 10-pin full, so your ball barely touches the 9. The 9 will hit the 8, the 8 will hit the 7, you will spill the back row, and that's just the way to do it.
Well, I'll give it a try.
Well, stand a little to the left, aim for the 10-pin, hit it full, and just touch the 9. Let's see what happens, and good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The automatic pin spotter is setting up the back row. Knock him down for $1,500. He's in the right direction. Oh, he hit it too full. That's too bad.
That's too bad, Nick, but here's a consolation prize of $10, and thanks an awful lot.
Thank you very much, Bud.
Well, folks, that winds up this week's show. Our champion bowlers next week will be Carmen Salvino of Chicago and Johnny King of Cleveland. Until then, keep 'em rolling.
W-L-I-N-G. We keep rolling, rolling, rolling. My baby and me. Bowling can never be boring. We play the game like this. A spare gets a hug in scoring, and a strike gets a kiss. Let's go be